Hello, this is Chris Dew, and I'm going to show you a connection between WooCommerce to Dynamics NAV. And we're going to show all of this happening via the tool called SmartConnect. So let's dig right into the demonstration. If we start out inside of um, our site for WooCommerce, this WooNav site, if we start out there, you can see that we only have one user right now, or one customer is the terminology, and that is coming from just one that was set up. But what we're going to do now is we're going to jump inside of SmartConnect, and I happen to have a map that is going to take customers from inside of NAV and is going to push them out to WooCommerce. So we'll go ahead and run this. What this one is doing, it's only going to send just a few over because we're only sending the ones that have a credit limit. So I believe right now it looks like I just have 3 of them inside of NAV that have a credit limit. But now that we've done that, we can go back and just refresh the screen, and now we should see these 3 customers or users that came in from our NAV system. So if I hit edit on this one, we can see that Michael, here's some information. All this information, we have some address information down below. All of this came in from our NAV system and is matching that. So let's do this now. Now that we have some additional users, let's go up and create an order inside of WooCommerce for that new customer that's been pushed out here. So if we go ahead and add a brand new order, what we'll do at this point in time is we'll pick the customer. So that was Mike Zeman. That's the one we picked. And you'll see now it's loading all the information that previously was in NAV. So that's good there. But let's go ahead and add some items to this order. So we'll search for, there's a number of products I have in here called Woo. So let's go ahead, we'll add one Woo t-shirt. And how about another, a Woo beanie? That sounds good to me. So we now have added these 2 things to our order. We just have one of each. So let's go ahead and we'll edit this t-shirt. And let's take, I don't know, let's say we need 5 of those. And we won't mess with any totals right now. But what we can do is save this, and now it should update our total amount on this order. So let's go ahead at this point in time, and we're going to create this order. So that is now sitting out there inside of Woo. So if we look at this now, there's a few orders that I had placed in here before, but this is one that we just put in for our new customer that just came in from NAV. Now, one thing I want you to notice, the status of this is pending payment. So let's go step back inside of SmartConnect and look at getting those orders from WooCommerce into NAV. So if we look at this map, and we're going to dig into the details of these maps in just a bit, but if we look at this map, I happen to have a restriction on here, and right now I'm going to switch this back. I'm going to switch this to we only want the ones that are completed. If I hit preview in this now, I'm not going to get any records because I don't have any orders in WooCommerce that have been set to that status. So if we switch this back to any will give me all the different statuses. So now you can see we have some pending orders, we have one that's on hold and one that's processing. So we have a number of orders that have come in right now. Let's do this though. Let's set this back to completed. And what we're going to do is we're going to go back in here and we'll edit this order and we'll change it from pending payment. We're just going to say that the payment has been taken care of, and now this order we're going to put in a completed stage. Now this may not be the the stage or status that you want to use when you want to bring it over into the system, but it's just for this example, that's what we're going to use. Now, another thing too, I'm showing you some mappings that are being run manually or maybe on a schedule, but you do have some options, it looks like, inside of WooCommerce that you can actually send through on a real-time basis. You could send stuff through SmartConnect. So that, just think of that as well. Okay, so I just changed the status on this. We'll update that order. And now that should be good out in WooCommerce. But if we go and preview this now we can see, there's our one order that has the completed status in it. And if we go and look over at this, it should be for our beanie and our t-shirt, and there's our quantities. Okay, so that's great. We're going to go ahead and run this now. And now this should bring that, just that one, right? That's the only order that we've having the completed status. It's now just completed this successfully and brought it into NAV. So let's go ahead and look at that. If we go ahead and refresh this list now, we can see, there we go. Sure enough, there's this 1726 order coming from WooCommerce, and it's for our it's for that customer, right? That Antarctic copy. There's all the address information for Mike. And if we look at it, there's the two items that we ordered, right? The Woo beanie and the Woo t-shirt. And you can see that both the quantity and the pricing has been brought in from the WooCommerce site. Okay, so now we've shown you two ways, right? We've pushed some information from NAV to WooCommerce, and we've also taken information once it's been put into the right status in WooCommerce. We brought that as an order into the NAV system. So let's go look a little bit more at what is happening to make these things work. We'll start with the simple, right, where we moved information from NAV to WooCommerce. And here's the basics of a map, right? You have some kind of a data source. The data source in this case is actually pointing to NAV. If we look at this, so this is just going and getting, like I said, all of the customers that have a credit limit that's greater than 0. That's those 3 records. So this is where it's getting the information from NAV, and that's the data source. And then the destination, you'll see we have this REST destination, and now I have a provider in here. There's a bunch of them, but this is the one I've added for WooCommerce, and we have the group of customers. The reason I think I only have customers is that might be the only one I have set up to write information back to. So that's why we have this create customer and update customer inside of here. If we look at this create customer though, this is our main mapping screen, which basically everything on this left-hand side is going to be coming from your data source. So this time that's Dynamics NAV or NAV, but everything on the right-hand side is coming from, in this case, the WooCommerce, the create customer node. So here's all these pieces of information. Some of them are at more of a header level, and some of them are like at a billing and shipping. You see I didn't map any of the shipping information. I mapped a bunch of the billing stuff. I kind of cheated on a few of these things, right? I just made up a username. I don't think that's probably how you'll be using WooCommerce. You'll probably have people coming through your website creating their own users and usernames, but since I was pushing everything from NAV, I just basically took the email address and made that the username, and also the password and all that fun stuff like that. But here's how easy it is to map, right? If I wanted to map this contact name down to the shipping, doesn't make sense, but shipping company, that's all I need to do, and now it has been mapped. I can also, if I choose to, I could just pull it from a list over here. And if I don't want it mapped anymore, I simply click on it and hit delete. That's how easy it is to do it in the interface. Now I want to show you one powerful thing. You can see I have some calculated fields inside of here. You can do some simple calculations, right? My email, basically all I did is take the contact name, which was like Michael, what did we have? Michael Zeman. So I just took that name and I basically replaced the space in the middle with a period. So it's Michael.Zeman. And then we added at e1.com to just make up a fake email address for that. But you can do some way more powerful things if you want. And so in this case, NAV was giving me some interesting ways of displaying the contact. And so I wanted to break that apart into a first name and a last name to send out to WooCommerce. And this is where you can do some more powerful things. This is .NET. It allows you to do VB.NET or C# and do some powerful things. So once you have those calculated fields, those can be mapped just like any of the other ones, as you can see a few of them are. Okay, so that's the map that we use to create those customers. Now, if you needed to send through some updates, maybe from your NAV system out to WooCommerce, maybe again take the example of a credit limit. Maybe you wanted to send that information once a day, maybe once an hour. Well, you can schedule that information right inside of here. And it looks like I didn't turn my scheduling service on, but that's okay. I can still show you this. If I had my scheduling service on, if I had any of these settings running and hit save, it would be running at the interval. So whether that be a monthly, weekly, daily, again, on the daily side of things, you can pick the time of day that you want it to run, and you can pick if you want it to repeat. So if I wanted to run this every hour of the day, I could say, let's run this every 60 minutes, and I can either put for how many minutes, or I could just say, hey, let's run it until 6 o'clock tonight. So while everybody's in the office, we're going to run this. After they go home, we're done until tomorrow. So that's how easy it is to set up a schedule and have this running without even being logged into NAV or WooCommerce. SmartConnect will automatically run this at the interval that you want. Okay, so that's enough on that map. But let's turn around and look at the one that actually created the different the orders, that took the orders from WooCommerce and brought it into NAV. So that's the map I have right here. If I open this one up, you'll notice it's a little bit different because now the data source is pulling from the REST web service, right? So these are ones that I've configured inside of WooCommerce. I have, some information around customers, orders, and actually the product information. And then specifically under orders, I'm using the get orders with lines. So I could have different methods, maybe one that only had, header information, maybe one that had, even more detail. But as I showed you before, I have the ability to pass in parameters. So this status, I can choose if I want to pull just the pending ones. Right, I showed any will pull everything. Completed, it's only pulling completed. But if I chose to change this to pending, now we would just get the orders that are out there, and we don't have any pending at this point in time. So we'll go back to completed. And now I should have that one record in there still. Okay. Sounds good. So that becomes my data source. We're pulling that live from the WooCommerce system. And now the destination becomes Dynamics NAV or Dynamics NAV. And any object that you have published inside of NAV will be available to integrate to. And so in this case, we have the sales order. If we just look very simply at a couple of these things, everything on this left-hand side now is coming from WooCommerce, and everything on the right-hand side is now coming from NAV. Same drag and drop mapping, and I just have one thing to show you. Some of these have drop-down lists, so you can see in this case, I'm bringing in an item, but you could have, if you had, some charged items or other resources or things like that, you could have a line item that changed for each one of those. So you can see we have a couple fields in here where I'm passing in, maybe the SKU that's coming from WooCommerce, and also, some information on the quantity, and I think I have some pricing information down below. So that's all information that's being passed in. And when we run this, this is what we'll actually go ahead and create. Um, we'll go ahead and create that order inside of NAV. So that's really the mapping in a very quick look at this. But I think one of the things I've heard from people is, oh, you know what, just a second, I was going to show you one more thing in this mapping. If we look at financials, I forgot this really important button right here, but this is what says which companies this should go into. Now, maybe a sales order like this, I know it's only going into one company, but maybe if you were creating customers from WooCommerce and wanted those to go into several different NAV companies, you could do that. Same with vendors or different things like that. But you could send that information into, just simply by checking this, into multiple NAV companies. Now, additionally, you can also, if you have a piece of data, maybe there's one of the custom fields in WooCommerce that says this should go to company A, this should go to company B. I can use this define button to read that data and then automatically have it go to the right company. So that was one thing I wanted to show you. Okay, here's the last thing I wanted to dig into. Sorry, I have two more things for you. What happens when you want to do more integration points, right? I showed you a couple, right? We had something around orders and customers, and I had a few more in there around getting some product information and things like that. But what happens when you want to go out and say, hey, you know what? I also, and I'll just pull up their documentation I've been looking at. Maybe you also want to go get the refunds. So maybe that's another map that runs and you need to bring in those refunds. I can go to this documentation, and here's really how easy it is. I could go and we'll just grab this. I'll just grab this first record here. One more field. There we go. This is how easy, just right from this documentation, I grab that field, and if we go inside of here and into our WooCommerce setup, what I can do is I can add additional return types. So the easiest way is to take that information I just copied, and we'll make a new text document. So this was going to be on refunds. We'll just call it get refunds. And then we're just going to name it .json for that's the file type that we're putting in. Okay, so that becomes our new text file. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to paste that information that we just had in there into that file and save it. The reason I've done that is that now we can create a new integration point, and I can just call this, again, I'll go get refunds, and simply go grab that file and it'll load in all the information into the system I need. And then if I want to use this for data, I can choose, you know, which of the fields. So if I want this one, for example, and this one, and probably we'll grab most of them. I can choose which ones I want to show up in the data source. Some of these have an incredible amount of fields, and so I don't recommend picking all of them because it can, you know, slow things down. But now I have another integration point that we can use to get that data back. If we look at some of the other ones that have already been configured, it's been configured to do this very efficiently and allows me to change things. So if we look at the get orders with lines, you can look at this one is that this is where I'm passing in some parameters I have into here. So this base URL is configurable, right? I'll show you where that's at in a second, but we can pass in our secret keys, and so it knows exactly who we are when we're getting that information. And then this is that status I passed it, right? So you can see that the status, when we change that to get any of the orders, or if we change it to get just the orders that have been completed, That's where it's passing it in a real-time manner. So that's really how easy it is to set up new information for WooCommerce. And again, if we wanted to go ahead and use it, we just create a map and go grab that information. So I have one more thing, because any integration I ever do, there's always going to be problems. And even for me, when I was setting this up, I ran into a few things because I didn't have information set up in one of the systems. So let's go ahead and look at how I can handle errors that I might get. And we have this built in right inside of our system. We can hit this process errors, and you'll see I have a few other ones, but very specifically, I have a Woo orders, basically the orders from WooCommerce to NAV. And if I look at the 15th run, it looks like I had an error. If we pull this up, I can see that this looks like I didn't have a customer, right? It's telling me that this customer, let me look at it again. This customer name, sell to customer name of E1, did not exist inside of the system. Well, the beautiful part about this is that I actually have fixed that problem, right? If we go into to look at my customers now, I have created one called E1. You refresh. You know what? Okay, just a second. I forgot what, it was a number. I think it's just, there we go. This one right here. So I have created this customer now, and if I go ahead and rerun this map, it's going to work. You can also edit things inside of here. So if we wanted to, in this case, if there was some piece of information that wasn't quite right, I could change that information. So instead of being $18 for this shirt, let's just say that there was some bonus discount and it's only $10 now. And so then I'll change this total as well to $10, which this won't match to, back to WooCommerce. But what I'm showing you is you can make changes in here, and I can run this map again. And now what it's going to do is it is going to bring in that one order that had failed, is going to bring it in successfully. And if we go ahead and pull this back up, this new order that just came in, here it is. We should now be able to see that the, oh, I must not have hit the right fields. I must have changed the wrong fields. But it should have actually read in the pricing that I had put inside of there. So this 18, it should have updated the 18 for the t-shirt to $10. I must have just got the wrong one. But just to show you that you can make those changes, and it will bring that information in, and you don't have to wade through 1,000 records to find it. You can just do that one and be good to go. All right, well, there's a quick tour through a SmartConnect using WooCommerce as both a data source and also a destination, and also using NAV as a data source and a destination. So if you have further questions, I'd be happy to answer them. But it looks like it's a great match using SmartConnect to bring these two together. So thank you for your time. And again, if you have any other questions, my email is chris.do@e1solutions.com. Thank you.